Okay, thank you, everyone, and welcome. This is I'm gonna go ahead and get started with our meeting. And again, I want to call this meeting to order. 6:02. This is a public meeting of the City of Soledad Joint City Council, Successor Agency, Housing Authority, and Successor Housing Agency regular meeting of Wednesday, April 16, 2025. And just as a matter of note, we are still meeting at Hartnell College, and the location is 1505 Metz Road, room section 114. And we hope to be able to be at City Council, hopefully, for the next meeting, but thank you for your patience as we're meeting here. I just want to again thank the public that's joining us here tonight. Thank you to our team, to our staff as well. Those that are also joining us via Zoom, thank you so much for joining Zoom or the city's YouTube channel. Thank you for joining. As we always say, your participation is vital to our civic engagement and to our democracy. So just a couple of reminders for the public. In order for the public to be able to participate, the meeting agenda and ID for today is 826-3432-3362. You can also join via telephone if you don't have access to a computer, and that's 1-669-900-6833. Again, as always, the meeting is streamed on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook Live. But just as a matter, not on Facebook Live anymore, or just I have to delete that. But any of the comments that you make, please make sure that you're making it on the Zoom or you're here in our chambers in order for that to be made part of the public record. Translations are available as they have been for some time now. So with that, thank you everyone, and we'll start our meeting. And if I can get a roll call, please.
Mayor Ana Velasquez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fernando Cabrera.
And I wanted to make a note that Councilmember Cabrera called in sick today, so he won't be able to.
Councilmember Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez.
And he will be coming late.
Councilmember Everest Avalos.
Here.
Councilmember Ben Caldera.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, then we'll move on to our next item of business, which is Pledge of Allegiance. And if you can stand, please, and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to ask Richard Perez if he'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the next item, which is, do we have any additional modifications to today's agenda?
No, there are none.
Okay, so moving on, then we'll move on to our public comments. So at this time, the members of the public may address the council on any items appearing on the agenda and items of interest to the public that are within the jurisdiction of the city council. So you do have 3 minutes, and we do ask that if you can please come up to the podium. If you're joining us via Zoom, if you can please raise your hand so we can acknowledge you as well. So I'm gonna start with our city council members who are right now. Any members of the public wish to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, then I will take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom. Any members of the public that are joining us via Zoom wish to make a public comment at this time? Okay, I see no hands raised, so I will close the public comment portion of our meeting tonight. And we do have a written public comment, though, so I will ask our clerk to read the public comment into the record.
This is a written public comment. It is from Maria Flores. Dear council members, city manager Megan Hunter, Mayor Ana Velasquez, and members of the community. My name is Maria Flores. I am a member of this community and a member of this Civics Academy. I am requesting support for the Civics Academy to continue being supported by the city's budget so the Academy can continue to support the community. By continuing the academy, more residents can learn, get involved, and support different events in the city of Soledad. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that public comment, and we will then move on to our council presentations at this time. We started the meeting at 6, and since we don't have any, closed session items, we're gonna move on into our council presentation. So today we do have 3, we will, be taking some of the proclamations, we'll be visiting, some of the locations, but we do want to read them into the record. So we'll begin with the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Soledad, presented to the Soledad High School Navy Junior Officers Training Corps, which is short for NJR, which is long and it's for NJROTC, in honor and recognition of National Volunteer Week, which is April 20th to the 26th. And I have the proclamation here. So what we want to do, we'll read the proclamation and then we'll ask you to come up if you want to share any words. And then at the end, we'll make sure once we do all the proclamations that you stay so we can take a photo with you before you leave. So whereas April 2026 is designated as National Volunteer Week to honor the hard work and dedication of countless volunteers who make our communities better. And whereas National Volunteer Week was first established to pay tribute to the unwavering contributions of women who collected supplies for and helped wounded soldiers during World War II. And whereas government alone cannot meet all the needs of our community, so we partner with businesses, faith-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, foundations, and individuals who serve Soledad to make a difference. And each year, special thanks is designated in our nation for the dual purpose of recognizing those who give of themselves and of encouraging all to become involved in volunteer work. And it is fitting at this time that we say thank you to all the individuals, groups, boards, and committees and businesses who have given time and energy and resources in the city of Soledad through volunteer service. And now therefore the City Council hereby proclaims April 20th to the 26th as Volunteer Appreciation Week and encourage our residents, volunteers throughout the year, volunteering and honoring those who serve, foster partnerships, understanding collaborative approach to problem solving and community building. And it is our honor as part of the City Council to be able to present this to the NJROTC, the Soledad High School NJROTC. And if I can have you guys come up to the podium. And this is really important and special because I know that part of your capacity as cadets, there's a lot of demands that are put on your time. And with that, I know that part of that is a volunteer service, and most of you, and I would say all of you, are really committed to serving back and giving back to your communities. And I know I've attended some of the graduations where the cadets are there, and it's pretty extraordinary to see not only have you been awarded, have been afforded acknowledgement for your academics, but also for your volunteer service. So on behalf of the City Council, we want to make sure that we commend and acknowledge all of you for giving back to our community. Without you, this is how our community works, by volunteers, and that's really important. So without you, our community couldn't be as great as it is. So thank you so much. So with that, I will turn it over to you all, if there's some words you want to share.
So yes, thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to receive this award on behalf of the whole Soledad NJROTC program, and on behalf of the instructors, Captain Gomez and Chief Dunn, always supporting us. This year, we had a combined amount of about 5,000 hours for all of 130 something cadets that we have in our program. And we do these events such as Cops Giving Tree, Tri-Cities, lots of color guards around the city and out of the city as well. We do the Salinas Rodeo and we do the Salinas Air Show. Those are some of the events we do. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to receive this award. You guys want to say anything? No. That's all I have.
So there's one of your cadets in back. Do you want to share any thoughts? No? Well, then, thank you so much, and very well said. I know it's a pretty astounding, right? 5,000 hours for 30 of you. And I know there's a lot also that you supported with the cleanups in the past and doing a lot of the outreach as well. So just want to say thank you, and if we can give them a big round of applause. And I know Captain Gomez is here. also to Captain Gomez and Chief Dunn, because I know they're instrumental and supporting you all, right? And providing all of these opportunities as well. And obviously you guys have so many commendations and we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. So we do have this certificate to present to you, this proclamation to present to you. So we have two more and then we'll ask you to come up and if we can take a photo. Thank you. Okay, and we have our next, we'll go on to our next proclamation of the City Council of the City of Soledad. And this is a proclamation honoring Earth Day. So we will be taking this to Frank Ledesma Elementary School for Earth Day as I know all of the schools do a great job, but Frank Ledesma School does have and has had for many years a butterfly garden and also has incorporated a lot of academic and education components to their school that is part of their culture to be able to know how important it is to collaborate and to protect our earth. So I wanted to make sure we commend them for those efforts. So I gonna just read briefly the proclamation and then we will be presenting this to the school. So whereas Earth Day is an annual event celebrated around the world on April 22nd to demonstrate support for environmental protection, first held in 1970 and now recognized as the largest secular observance in the world. And whereas the health and well-being of our planet are essential to the prosperity, safety, and quality of life for both present and future generations. And whereas climate change, pollution, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity continue to threaten our natural ecosystems and the communities that depend on them. And whereas it is shared responsibility of individuals, communities, businesses, governments to take meaningful action towards sustainability, conservation, and environmental stewardship. And whereas the staff at Frank Ledesma Elementary has demonstrated their commitment to our environment by planting a garden that supports the migration of the monarch butterfly. Now therefore, the City of Council, the City of Soledad does here proclaim April 22nd as Earth Day in the City of Soledad, and we encourage all Soledad residents to participate in this and observe this day, recycling, conserving resources, planting trees and gardens, and caring for our Mother Earth. So this will be presented to them, and I know for us in the City of Soledad, we started to have Earth Day events in the past that we planted some butterfly gardens, we planted, I think the Girl Scouts also planted a tree. So there's a lot that our community does engage in during Earth Day, and we hope that we can bring that back as annual events for us here. So thank you. So with that, we will present our proclamation, and it's a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Soledad in honor and recognition of National Day of Prayer. And I will turn this over to Councilwoman Banuelos for the proclamation.
So for the National Day of Prayer, just recognize the National Day for National Prayer, and I'm going to read this briefly. Saying, whereas the National Day of Prayer is a tradition deeply rooted in the history of the United States, first proclaimed in 1952 by Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman, and observed annually on the first Thursday in May. And whereas from the founding of our nation, Americans have turned to prayer for guidance, strength, protection, and wisdom in times of celebration and in times of trial. And whereas the National Day of Prayer unites people of all faith backgrounds across our country in a moment of collective reflection, supplication, and thanksgiving. And whereas prayer offers an opportunity for healing, renewal, and hope for individuals, communities, and our nation as a whole. And whereas acknowledging our shared values of faith, compassion, service, unity, we affirm the importance of seeking guidance of our leaders, institutions, and one another. So, and also we want to present this, at the National Day of Prayer for the Liberty Chapel Church. The City of Soledad does hereby proclaim May 1st, 2025, a National Day of Prayer at the City of Soledad, and ask our citizens to give thanks each according to his or her own faith, for the freedoms and blessings we have received, and continued guidance, comfort, and protection.
Thank you. Thank you. And at this time I would, and let me read out the names because I didn't do it earlier for our NJROTC cadets, but we do have here with us Cadet Commander Juan Barron, Cadet Lieutenant Commanders Michael Perez and Heriberto Hernandez, and Cadet Lieutenant, Yahaini Zamora. So thank you so much. So at this time, if you guys can, join us up in the front so we can take a photo. Okay. And that's, resolution 6190. Okay, and I have an item on that one as well, so if there's no, other comments or concerns, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendars with exclusion of resolution of item number 3. So moved. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Banuelos and a second by Councilmember Caldera. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. So we will move on then to item 3, consent calendar, item 3, and I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Banuelos.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up, for the Solid Ed Lines and Lions Club, in recognizing, so much that they do for the community and, me working with them as well, because I'm part of the 4th of July committee and Christmas parade committee, but not only that too, they, I applaud this club because there's so much in the community and they always give back. And then also, scholarships for high school students. And, it's, I know it's moving forward, they're not gonna go anywhere. They're always gonna support the community, they're always gonna support our students everywhere, and they're actually gonna be here, this weekend during the, collaborating with the Easter egg hunt, and they're gonna be going out and distributing food for the community. So I just wanted to recognize the Lions and Lions Club for your hard work and, continue doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have, so I also wanted to pull this item and also thank you for the work that you guys have been doing in our community. Obviously, we know this was a 30-year contract. We are into a 3-year contract for this. I just for me in terms of reviewing, and thank you so much for all the work. I think in reviewing the contract document, I just like to add a couple of elements if we can include, in the agreement. And just to be consistent with how we've been, providing the information that we've been requesting from all of the groups that are, in, city or public property, is if we can have an annual report or a report just back to the community in terms of all the work that you guys are, that the Lions Club is doing, and I know they're doing a lot of great work in the community. But this would be consistent with what we've asked from the Historical Society, also from the Little League, to be able to ensure that the community understands the value of the work that is being done and the value of the groups that are doing that work in our community. So being able to add an element to the contract that I didn't see as part of the agreement. Just on the reporting side, whether it's a report that you already have, to be able to include that. And also the list of the current memberships. I don't know if we have that or if you want to provide that information as well. And I know that you guys have a lot of great members. But I think again, it's important for our community to know who are all of these individuals that are doing the volunteer work. We just obviously recognize Volunteer Week, and it's important to be able to recognize those members of your group as well. So those are the only comments I had for additions in respect to the agreement itself.
So I don't know, if that's amenable to the group. We would, request that you come back maybe each year to just give a verbal or a written report, your choice.
Good evening. Richard Curtis speaking, the secretary speaking on behalf of the Lions. Answering your question on written report, we submit a report every year on our fireworks. It gives a list of all activities that we've helped in the past and with the years. And let alone this year alone, this month alone, we've done 1,300 meals for Little League. We did 400 meals for Mission School. And we have the baseball team coming up 26th of this month. And also, we just got approached by SCAR, South County Animal Rescue. And we're putting out 300 meals for them at our cost. A lot of this is our cost. And the only way we do this is through our fundraisers. And the hall is the catalyst of fundraising, doing prep work. We have a barbecue pit there and all our equipment. So we do furnish a yearly report submitted with our fireworks.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification, because I know I saw the reports, but obviously it was in connection to the fireworks because of the request for the application. But we can add that. I mean, I think if it's already there, it's amenable to be, I mean, it's fine to add it into the July report that you submit will be considered as a report that we can share also with the community of all the great work you guys are doing.
It doesn't break it down in each individual organization that we help. It's through the community itself. It doesn't say how much we put out on each one or how many hours we put in to do these fundraisers. It's time consuming, and also mention that Easter, the Lions Club and the Lions have donated the eggs, the gift and the food for the event. And also we did furnish insurance to cover if anything happened out there. We didn't know if the city has insurance for the event, but being that our name is attached to it, we want to make sure we were covered. So we did get another policy, and I think they did submit that to the record department. And that also too with the insurances. We just submitted insurance for Sober Brad. It's coming up in June. They were having to go out and buy insurance, and we turn around and covered it. We donate every year to the Sober Brad for the meals and monetary also. When we found out that they were having to purchase insurance this year, we turned around and we took it, we got it for them. That no cost to them.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, thank you so.
I think, Richard, we can, if you're amenable, we as staff can just work with you to just get a little, either a verbal report or, just basically what you've been giving us, to document it each year, if you're amenable to that.
We have spent yearly reports to Lions Club, what we do for the community.
So that would be fine. Yeah, so we can just, that would be just one little change that you would provide, whatever you provide to the national as an.
Yeah, and that would be great. And I think for me, again, I just want to reiterate, I know your members are here, and thank you so much for being here. I think for me, it's one is consistency with all of the other agreements, contracts that we have with some of the other public service groups. Just to maintain that consistency and transparency, and then also to be able to, for us and for the community to know all the great work that you guys are doing. I know in the past, we didn't receive some of those reports, and it's important for you to be able, for us to be able to share with the community, you know, all the contributions, right? At the end of the day, the contributions that come to our community are extraordinary, and we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to know and to share that as well.
Oh, our organization, we're small, we donate to the community, but we don't go out there and say, look what we've done for you. If people ask, we'll tell them. And the only thing I'm blowing my horn right now is, since 2000, our club has donated or raised in this community 1.25 million. That not most of all, it's been brought back to the community.
Well, thank you, and we want to share that. If you want to share it, we want to share it, because we think it's really amazing, right? And I think when we highlight what is best about Soledad, it's organizations like yours, right? So we want to make sure that we have that to be able to clearly articulate all of the benefits that you bring to our community. So thank you.
Any other questions on? Are we discussing the Lions contract right now, or lease?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we've reluctantly agreed to the 3-year lease with 2-year option on it. 2 years ago, we stuck $26,000 back in that building to rehab it, to bring it to code. And we were shooting for a 10-year lease. And we've been told now that the designation for properties around it has been down for low income housing, eventually down the line. And personally, I think putting low income housing next to that big park, you're cutting off a lot of traffic in that area for people using that park. If you go by on weekends, that place is packed. The streets are packed with the terms and everything they have. And I think personally, I'd like to see a 10-year lease, and you put in your lease with, if your housing does come up, we can give notice on that, but we like to stick some money in that building, but within 3 years at a time, you're just maintaining. And some that we need to really put some work in. But at least we want to know that we're gonna get our money for it and long for it.
So thank you for your comments. I know before us, so we do have the lease that's coming before us that is for the 3 years with an option, right? There's an option clause in there as well. So in the event that nothing does happen as for in that facility, that we do have that clause for an extension. So thank you. That'll go into the record.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, council. So I think those were the only comments that we had in regards to that. So with that, then I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number 6190. Okay, so I have a motion,
Second.
motion from Councilwoman Mendoza and a second by Councilmember Caldera. All in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I forgot to say aye, sorry.
Okay, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. So we'll move on then to our next item of business, which is our business items. And today we have 4 business items, 4 business items. So we'll go on to resolution. Okay, Yeah, so we want to make sure that we maintain consistency and structure in our meetings. So at this time, the public comment period has concluded. So if I open it up, I'm gonna have to do that for every meeting and every person that comes in. So we want to make sure that we maintain. For me, it's important to maintain consistency with our policies and fairness across the board. So for that purpose, I will not open up the public comment. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on then to our item of business. And for today, we have resolution number 6223, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Soledad approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Soledad and Baja Community Development Corporation for the Regional Women's Business Center Program. And I will turn this over to Cynthia Vargas.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm here today to present a request approval to renew the partnership between the City of Soledad, and the Baja Community Development Corporation, also known as Baja CDC. As of you may recall, or some of you may recall, Baja CDC played a key role in supporting local businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. They were the first agency to establish regular office hours at the Gateway Center, providing personalized one-on-one business assistance. Over the course of the 3-year partnership, they offered essential support to a wide range of entrepreneurs in our community, recognizing the continued need for business development resources. City staff may engage with Baja CDC to extend their services. The renewed partnership will provide comprehensive business consulting to both current and aspiring business owners in Soledad. Services, some of the services that they will be included will be loan packaging assistance, marketing strategy support, micro lending, general business consulting, financial education, and literacy. Additionally, Baja Valley CDC offers bilingual business coaching in Spanish and in English, as well as specialized support for food-based businesses and childcare entrepreneurs. If approved, the new memorandum of understanding will take effect on May 1st. Baja CDC will resume weekly office hours at the Gateway Center on a day that they will see fit for their schedule. Continue the module that they proved effective in the past. Importantly, per the term of the MOU, each agency will cover its own costs, so it's at no cost, and there will be no direct budgetary impact to our city budget. At this time, that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. So let me take it out to the public first to see if there's any comments on our resolution 6223. So we don't have any members of the public here anymore, so I will take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom. If there's any members of the public that wish to make a comment on resolution 6223. Okay, seeing none, then I will bring it to the council to see if there's any, and on this one, because there's only 4 items, we'll do questions and comments at the same time. So I will start with Councilmember Caldera. Are there any questions or comments on resolution 6223?
Well, I believe that the benefits kind of outweigh the cost at this time. It's nothing else.
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez Sanchez.
No questions.
Okay, Councilwoman Benoist.
None of them.
I just have, so I'm gonna stick to wanting to be fair and consistent across the board as part of the MOU. Thank you for bringing that back, and I'm excited, first of all, let me make a comment, excited, first of all, to know that we are continuing the MOU with the Baja CDC because they were really instrumental during the pandemic to really support us, supporting our businesses. I know that they supported a lot of businesses during the past couple of years that they've been working with us. So I don't see Carmen on the line, but I just want to say thank you to Carmen and all her staff that were here doing a lot of work with our businesses and supporting them to be able to receive the support that they need. I'm excited about the Women's Business Center program because the closest one to us, for people that may not know, is in Fresno. So being able to have that here, have that connection to our support our businesses is really important. So I just want to say thank you, first of all, for continuing that partnership. I do have a comment in regards to additions to the MOU. And again, I want to be consistent and fair across the board when we're when we're producing these MOUs or creating these MOUs, that there is a component to report out to the community. So you know, again, it's instrumental work that they're doing, but if we don't know and the community doesn't know, then the benefits that they bring aren't really, those stories aren't really told. So if we can add a component to the report, to have a report to the city council and to the community, or it's to the city council, but whether it's, you know, a report verbally to come to the council meeting, to come to one of the meetings to provide an update on some of the outcomes, or to be able to provide a report. I will leave it at the discretion, but I think I want to be consistent with requesting that in our MOUs and our contracts. And then just look forward to finding ways that, you know, the MCDC, SPDC, and Baja CDC, all the DCCCs can really work together, because I think there's so much value to our community, and we actually, I want to say, our businesses and the council and the staff has really supported our existing local businesses, and so I think all of them working together is such a benefit and so instrumental for our small businesses. So if we can find ways to be able to make sure that everybody's connected and working together.
If I could just comment on that, they are actually in the expo, they were participating in the actual SBDC Expo. Baja Valley was there also, so the conversation has actually already started. They do want to work together. And I think if anything, it's going to make the help and the resources stronger for our community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for those comments. So with that then, no further comments. I will make a motion to approve resolution 6223. Okay, so I made the motion, sorry, I wanted to make the motion on this one. It was second by Councilman Manuelo. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries unanimously to approve resolution number 6223. So we'll move on to our next item of business, and it's discussion and consideration on a phased approach for the Soledad Container Village project to increase feasibility. I will turn this over to Megan or to Beatriz. Okay, I'll turn it over. So Tensia, it's your turn again.
Yes, and actually, if I may, I want to, because I know some of you don't have this. I know.
I do.
I handed everybody the packet, the actual brochure for the project, but, so I did put together a presentation, so I know all the information is in the staff report, and I took out some key, elements that we do need to, get your input on. So, as you all know, we've been working for quite some time on this Soledad Container Village. So today we would like to bring this item, for discussion to you. We do need your feedback and, your recommendation. Just to give you the next slide, the project overview. The Soledad Container Village project is a significant economic development initiative aimed at revitalizing downtown Soledad by introducing new dining, retail, and entertainment opportunities. While the project holds strong potential for community and economic growth, its estimated development will cost about $7 to $10.2 million. Presents a big financial challenge, necessities to pursue for external funding sources. So we've been looking at other sources. This proposed development will be located on Front Street on a city-owned property that is currently undeveloped and vacant. And it's right literally next to the park. To give you on the next slide some key progress and key milestones as far as like what staff has been doing. In 2021 and through 2022, on September 25th, 21, Economic Development held a workshop. That's when it all started. In May of 2022, city allocated ARPA funding towards this project for the study itself and development. In August of that same year, ELS Architecture was selected as the designer for the actual project, the conceptual design. In October of 2022, community input workshop was held. So we went out to the public and we asked them what they wanted to see. Is this something you want to do? And so forth. And between 23 and 2025, in April of 2023, the concept designs and a 3-year pro forma was presented in a joint workshop for council and planning commission. And at that time, you gave us some recommendation and you actually chose the design out of the 3, which ones you wanted. And it was actually a combination of the design, 2 and 3. In September of 2024, the city was awarded a USDA grant when we went after the grant to complete another study that would tell us, detail us, the type of ownership, funding that we could go after, and a little bit more detail on the project itself, or what we can and can't do. In January of 2025, this year, we had a site visit by SBA. They were very enthusiastic about the project, and we provided them a tour of not only that area, but they also wanted to see the other developments in town. In February of this year, after that visit, we had a joint meeting with SBA, EDA, and MCBC, who has actually been helping us with this feasibility study that we currently are working on. So that's just a little bit overview. So we have been working actively on this project.
And Cynthia, not to interrupt, but if I may, I think from the kind of site preparation side, in addition to these kind of economic development milestones, thanks to the ARPA funding, we brought the power connections across the street, the utility connections across the street. We did a phase 1 and phase 2 to determine the conditions of the site and confirmed that the development would be exempt from CEQA. So we did a lot of other kind of, while it might seem like there was a big gap, we've actually been doing quite a lot of work to get the site ready for development.
Thank you. Yes, I forgot that. Keep going.
Sorry.
No, you're
That's
good.
my planning.
It'd be good to add some of those details, so that way it's helpful for us to be able to share that, right?
Mhm.
All this has been done already,
Yeah.
because it's.
And actually, just to, as far as we are going to be updating, we do have a page on our website about the project, so we are going to be updating it more often now that we've been doing a lot of work, I guess. Right now, the current progress and funding, as I had stated in August of 2024, the city secured $50,000 USDA Rural Development Grant to fund a feasibility study, now underway in partnership with the Monterey County Business Council. This study will assess projects' viability, ownership models, and funding strategies. But we need direction from you, from our city council, on whether to detail a phased implementation approach in the study. So one thing about this study is we're also looking at types of ownership. Do we go and do a private, where we package it together and sell it to a private developer, we would definitely lose control of the site, which now translates to losing rental control. We have an issue right now, so that is, an effect of that, if we go to a private development. And also the other thing to consider when it's not city owned is we would have to go through the SLA process. So those are two things. If we keep it, we're looking at, us keeping control, making it available for local businesses and being more of an incubator. So there's two things that we're looking at as far as ownership.
And then if I can just interrupt, and I apologize for our community, because I know we use acronyms because it's easy for us, but SLA is the surface land that is a requirement under the state.
Right, because we do own the land, we have to make sure that we announce it, advertise it, so it's available for development, especially for housing. Federal agency engagement, a little bit more of our engagement. So following the visit by SBA and consulting with SBA and EDA representatives, staffs were advised that phasing the project into multiple stages would significantly increase grant eligibility. Given the initial proposed cost of 7 to 10.2 million, this phased approach would allow for incremental funding opportunities, reducing the city's upfront financial burden and increasing likelihood of securing an EDA grant, or actually grants, which typically requires a matching fund. The basic matching fund is about 20%. When we met with them, they advised us that, you know, they would even help us to overview the application. So they recommended into 2 phases. So it's better to split them up because that way we're not requesting as much, and then that way it translates to us not making such a huge match. So we want to, staff wants to ensure city council supports city ownership at a phased approach. So that's what we're thinking that would work best for this property and for this project. On the next slide, the phased approach will enable the city, if we keep it publicly owned from us, increase funding opportunities, reduce the city's financial burden, ensure long-term feasibility, allow for adjustments based on market demand and funding availability. The phase-in approach also, which I did not include on this side, is that I put on the next one, but I just want to clarify the way that we're thinking is developing of a food truck pod to demonstrate the viability of a future container village with minimal capital investment. So we're thinking of phasing it out to a stage where we start with, you know, the land, and then making maybe a food truck pod for the beginning, and then moving forward with maybe more containers and so forth. So that's the approach that we're thinking, and not the whole development. At that point, we would definitely be reaching out to our downtown businesses and for their input. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Tancia, for the presentation, and thank you also for including the presentation slides in our packet as well. Super.
They were updated, by the way, so I can definitely send you the update. Yes, definitely.
Perfect, if you can do that, but it does be helpful for us, so I want to say thank you. Okay, so let me send it out to them. Let me ask the public if there's any comments from the public first, and then I will come back to the council. So let me go to those that are joining us via Zoom. If there's any members of the public, I'm gonna bypass here, since we don't have members of the public, but any members of the public that are joining us via Zoom, if there's any comments or questions you may have on this item number 2 of our business items. Okay, I'm seeing no hands raised, so I will close the public comment, and then I will bring it back to our council, and I'll start with Councilwoman Jones.
Thank you. Tancia, thank you so much for the presentation and the eagerness I feel from you. I'm excited. Just a quick question. Can you tell me what SBA means again?
Small Business Administration.
Okay. And then also, you know, for the public, I know I hear and I listen here to, I just want to make sure the 50,000 is, we received the grant from the Rural Development Grant. It's not anything coming from our budget, right?
So that was the grant, just to clarify, and thank you for asking. The grant was a 50% match. So we already, we just used actually ARPA funding for the match. And then the rest of it is the grant. They funded the rest of the study. So it's $100,000.
Okay, great. And then the actual walkthrough, the site visit, it was with EDA and then MCDC. Their recommendations is, you know, phasing. And would that be, I believe, you know, for the public, just to understand, so that way I can explain it to them, you know, it's better off either going through a private development or going through phases, you know, that's what you're, you know, giving them.
So just to clarify, the tour was with the SBA only, and then after that, we had a joint meeting with SBA and EDA, the Economic Development Administration. So we had a meeting via Zoom with everybody on the team, so our staff and MCBC. And as far as the phasing approach, so to clarify, if we do a privately owned, so we package the architectural plans and everything, package it up. We could sell it to a developer for them to build, but we would definitely lose control. Not only that, but we would have to go through the SLA process. So the Surplus Land Act. So those are the two things that we would have to do. If we keep it in-house and we keep the land and we go ahead and apply for funding, we have, our chances are greater to apply for funding. And the big positive is that we would have full control of the project. So we could also lease it out. We would have control of who's gonna go in there, the amount of rent. And one of the reasons that we are recommending that is because of the situation that we're having right now with a lot of staple businesses on Front Street are losing their businesses because they're having to move out because of the cost of rent has not tripled, not doubled, either doubled or tripled.
Okay.
So that's the two.
That's it.
And if I can just add to Cynthia's point, I think the biggest difference between private investment and keeping ownership is private investment can move a lot faster and can come up with that big amount of money. But yes, we lose control over the type of business that will be in our downtown. So they could be bringing chains or they could be bringing other type of businesses that, yes, maybe they already have a following or they already have a clientele, but they move faster. That will be with private development. And if we don't necessarily want to be as invested on the type of vendors that we will have there, if we don't care to have that much control, that can be financially faster. But if we want to retain control of the type of businesses that we want to have, and we want to make sure that our local businesses get a first chance and that we are coaching them through the process, then we think that it's best to retain ownership, that the city retains ownership. That way we can also control the rental prices, and we can control the type of business that are in the container village. However, that's a slower process because that's why we think that the only way that we can make it feasible is through the phased approach. Because we will not be able to come up with the amount of money as fast as the private sector, but we will be more intentional with the type of development that we have in the city.
Thank you. Thank you for the detailed explanation, because I wanted to make sure the public understands, you know, the difference.
The two,
Yes,
yes.
thank you.
If I may, I'm sorry, Mayor,
Yeah,
through the chair. I just wanted to explain to you that while we talk about private development, we still don't know if it's feasible for a private developer to come in right now, because there's a lot of capital costs and they will have to do. I mean, that would be kind of the next step of the feasibility study. That's why we're coming to you now, because we would have to determine if that's even feasible. But we don't want to put all of our eggs in that basket. If you really prefer this local ownership, if we do it that way, then we're gonna look at different criteria. We're gonna look at federal funding and other funding sources and how we get there. So that's why we're coming at this point to you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez Sanchez?
Yes, so I am in favor of keeping it owned by the city as opposed to going to a developer, especially because I understand that would be a little bit faster, but I think that's what we want, is to have the ownership so that we are able to kind of control leases, lease agreements, who's there, rent, and then also I think what we're having challenges right now with the current developer for Soledad Marketplace is that we're not seeing things moving as quickly as we thought, and as quickly as we would like to see. And so then we would run the risk of having that same thing anyway. So I think that that's where my thought process go there. I am curious about the phased approach. So what we would do then is have just one section built out. Like, what would that look like? Would we just have like seating areas and then a section for like any food trucks that's interested to come in? Like, I'm having a hard time kind of conceptualizing that.
So the phased approach, definitely when we go, like, if you choose to do it that way, when we apply for EDA funding, the architectural plans are the phase one.
Okay.
So then we will have a vision. They'll be more laid out with that in mind that we are going to be phasing it out. So we would have to have, that's the first step. So you would definitely have, a vision of what it would look like.
So just getting the concept, it wouldn't be like built out, yeah, for the first phase.
For the first phase, it's more architectural plans, correct, Megan? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think, if I may, I think what the vision is that we would kind of run two parallel tracks, which is, I think we could do a food truck pod with very little, I mean, the biggest probably support we would need is finding an operator and identifying an operator. But we think we could invest in kind of, you know, putting, decomposed granite and kind of flattening out a surface and putting some, the temporary equipment and then inviting food trucks. Now, whether it's, you know, we start off with 1 day a week, or, you know, the 2 days a week, we would then kind of work with the downtown businesses to get them on board. But simultaneously with that, we would also be going out and working with the EDA and the SBA to get funding so we could move, because we just have conceptual plans, but would move into kind of like a feasibility of if maybe we start off with 2 shipping containers. Like maybe one is more of a small kitchen that could do some, like maybe one's a coffee shop with a little bakery and one's a little, I don't know, ice cream shop or something, or a sandwich shop. We'd start off with something kind of small as like phase 1, but they would also help us build out the concept of, okay, this is phase 1, it's 2 shipping containers, and phase 2 might be 2 more, and phase 3 might be 3 more, and phase 4 might be the public, you know, improvement. So we would, they would look at it, part of the feasibility study would be looking at how that build out happens and what kind of amenities go with it, and what the costs are.
So it's gonna be the feasibility based on the financial feasibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's why your input today is important. That way we can, if we decide to have a property that is city owned, then we can provide that direction to the feasibility study rather than measuring both private and city owned. After today, we can determine we're going in this direction, so the feasibility study will be very specific to phasing it out under this approach.
I think definitely then for me is my recommendation would be to do it as a based approach that is owned by the city, and I would not be interested in private.
Thank you, Councilmember Rivera.
I'm actually in agreement with, everyone keeping the, taking ownership of the project and, it's going to be having control and, I believe it, the way it looks, it's very unique and it's like putting a fingerprint on this project, you know, solid. So I think it's really, really good. So my question for you is, how long, of the first phase, how long from the start to when it's done?
Right now, what we're working on, and after the decision, we'll go ahead and, we have, the grant ends in August of this year. So we will have, if we go to that direction where it's city owned, it'd be very specific. That's the study we'll get by the end of August. Maybe we are gonna be coming back and presenting that to you. So that will be the first, study. From there on, knowing that we're gonna do that, we can apply in the interim with EDA. And I honestly don't have a time frame of how long that would take. They do have rolling funding for these type of projects for economic development.
Maybe a year?
Yeah, I think based on what they're asking from us too, because the feasibility study is gonna determine.
We'll get more of a.
More details on the timeline
Once,
of each of the phased approaches.
Exactly, thank you, yes.
And through the chair, if I might, we may be coming back sooner because if there's an interest in kind of like jump starting the food truck pod. We might be able to, you know, set some money aside in the future budget for an operator to just, in some basic, not a lot of capital improvement money to just get that off the ground and kind of get something on the site to generate excitement. But that's you know, we would bring the proposal for your consideration with a budget if you were interested in a, you know, preliminary site plan.
Any additional questions, Councilmember Caldera?
Good, I think this is beautiful.
Thank you.
Something you see in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just to clarify, I know for me, as you read in the report, I mean, this is already into our 4th year, right, of the discussions of the container village, so it does take time. And I know when we looked at the design, so I want to make sure that we don't like deviate so much from the designs, because there was 3 different models that were presented to us in terms of the conceptual design. And the council did choose what's on here, which is the conceptual, to be able to move forward with that. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that even as we're moving forward, we're not recreating something that, as a vision, the community, we had gone out to the community, you know, gave their input, and that we're not, you know, obviously it's gonna be phased, but that there's no deviation from the conceptual. I mean, obviously we can add elements, but I just want to be clear that there was already the designs that came, and this was the design that was selected to move forward.
Yeah, we would, and I think part of the phasing would be, you know, knowing what the full
The layout and.
layout is, and then just, you know, figuring out what that phasing approach would look like.
So all of this material, all this, the input from the survey, all the outreach that we did and the original conception, the vision that you guys selected at that time. MCBC, who is helping us with this study, they have all of that.
Yeah, well,
So
I just want to
we're
be
using
clear,
that as our footprint.
because I know that we did a lot of work
Mhm.
with the community. And so I just want to make sure that doesn't get modified, as, you know, as significantly, so. But in regards to this specific item that's before us, I also want to support the retention of ownership from the city. I think when we entered into these discussions back in 2021, the lot was sat empty for many, many years. There was no developers that came in and wanted to develop that piece of land, so this is how the whole discussion of the container village, you know, resurrected, right? So I don't think there was any discussions, at least from what I can recall, that there was gonna be, turned over to a developer to be able to do this. Obviously, we did, you know, we do know about public-private partnerships, but I think it's critical that the city retain ownership, and I'm looking forward to the feasibility study, because I think from there, we'll look at alternatives for, you know, based on the phasing, what's possible, and also based on the financial feasibility, right? It's a $10 million project. I hope, you know, our residents and our council understand it's not gonna happen overnight, but I do know that the phased approach is important, because we've tried to get funding for it in different avenues already, and finding a chunk of $10 million is not feasible. And even for us, in terms of our budget, we don't have that significant amount of cash. You know, that would be all of our budget for all of our services. So the phased approach, I support us moving forward with our retention of ownership and looking at the outcome of the feasibility study to come before us. Okay, council, so with that, no further comments or questions, then I think there was enough information you received in terms of direction on this item, correct? Perfect, so we will move on then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on then to our next item, which is workforce housing and rental policy framework, and I will turn this over to the Deputy City or Economic Director.
Thank you. Good evening or good afternoon, council, mayor and council. Let me just get my presentation ready here. So this is we're coming back to talk about the workforce housing rental policy framework. As you probably recall, and what we're actually requesting from council tonight is a couple of things. One, to review the proposed framework, and 2, to provide direction on policy development and implementation. The goal of the workforce housing is really to support recruitment and make sure that we are retaining our city employees. So a little bit of background on this item is, as you know, South County has a very limited rental housing stock, and the cost is really high. If you try going on Zillow, and you try looking for a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, you'll find very few opportunities. I think it's more likely that you'll find on Marketplace, a bedroom being leased in somebody's home, but it's very difficult to find an entire unit for, young professionals or for people that, have some of those upper management positions that maybe want to stay in the area, but really the type of accommodation that we have available is not attractive for that type of workforce. So one of the things that we want to do through the workforce housing policy is that we want to make sure that we are recruiting our officers and our first responders. We do have a lot of vacancies. Currently, we have 6, plus we're also undergoing the recruitment for the chief of police. And it's really hard to attract these positions into the city when people are not finding opportunities to stay here. And as you remember, council approved resolution 6196 back in February 19, and that was to authorize city staff to purchase one of the condominiums from Las Viviendas. That's a 1 bedroom condo that has its own garage. So something to consider when we're thinking about the rental policy is the rental rates. Even though for some people, depending who you ask, may look or not look as affordable between 2,000 and 2,500, really we're looking at affordable by definition, right? And definition by the state of California is that people don't pay more than 30% of their income. So police officers, with their income, 30%, 2,000 or 2,500 is 30% or less of their monthly income. And that's something that as a city program, we can monitor and we can really tie it to the household income. So we also need to consider the tenancy term, and we need to make sure that we are following fair housing law. But fair housing allows for workforce housing to have a term limit as long as we are not using any of the protected classes definitions to kick people out of their home. But as long as we let them know from the beginning, this is a 2-year term. And at that 2-year term, we can reassess eligibility, but we can also ask you to leave. We are okay with fair housing law. Sorry, backwards. So what we are presenting to you is how do we prioritize who gets to be in one of those units? And we have 5 different tiers of priorities. The first one is for emergency and first responder recruitment. So new staff coming into the city, all of those new employees. I will add something that I will elaborate on the next slide, which is also considering this recently purchased unit as a short-term opportunity for the new chief of police, but very short-term. We're talking 3 to 6, probably up to 3 months for new recruitment for first responders, including chiefs, but I will explain a little bit more about that one on the next slide. The tier 2 is first responders and emergency workers retention. So if we have a staff that is already working with us, but they don't find a place where to stay, they will be our second priority. Third priority is other City of Soledad employees, in that we can give priority for those that are more challenging to recruit. This could be such as engineers, wastewater operators, those positions that requires really a skill set that it's hard to have in our area. If we know that we're losing some of those employees, they can be our third priority if it's due to housing. Fourth tier is for essential public employees. That will include, let's say that nobody else is in need of housing, all of the other tiers. So this is where we open it up for other public employees. That will include teachers, that will include healthcare workers, so any essential public employees. And then the fifth priority will be for the general workforce, and this will include any Soledad resident, as long as we're able to prove that this is a Soledad resident that might be at risk of homelessness due to high housing costs. They can be our fifth priority, fifth tier of priority. And this one is a little bit more information about potentially using the current unit that we have for the recruitment of the chief of police. The candidates that have been interviewed, all of them are from out of the area. However, we are proposing that if this unit is vacant right now, we can, if council is amenable to that, then maybe we can present this as an option to the finalists. But this will be a very short term. This wouldn't be the 2 year, it will be a 3 to 6 months, and it's just for them to allow them to coming to the city, settled in, and be ready to work, while they're also looking for a new place to stay. But it will help us get that person here faster. We expect that the hiring process will conclude in June. So if you're amenable to that, this unit will be, if you think it's okay for us to use it for the chief of police recruitment, and we offer it to him in June, that the latest that the unit will be available again will be by the end of this calendar year, if we decided to do that.
And through the chair, just to clarify, we expect to actually have a final selection in May. Contemplating they need to give some notice. We're thinking that actually we could have boots on the ground by June, by mid-June. So it's very imminent. It's not months away. It's pretty much starting sometime at that point.
Okay, and again, this is for council consideration, given our current circumstances, which now I will go to the recertification criteria. If we have somebody leaving there, going back to the traditional 2-year approach by tier, by priority tier. If somebody reaches their 2-year, how do they get recertified? And really, they will get recertified based on the priority tier that they were eligible for the unit. But we will conduct recertification every 2 years. They will need to be active a city employee or city resident, depending on the tier that they're part of. They need to prove that their primary residency and income. And also, if we offer this recertification criteria to the tier 5, that they are working and transitioning to permanent housing. And extensions can be based on availability and priority, depending on the demand that we have for the unit. I know right now it's probably gonna be high demand. We have already heard from a couple of staff members who are interested in getting on the interest list. So we know that right now this will be high demand, but if in the future, years down the road, this becomes something that is more available, then we can determine extensions based on availability and priority. So financial considerations, we want this program to be self-sustainable via rental income. We needed to upfront a lot of the money right now, but we hope that as we continue to collect rent, of course, this is gonna be a slow process to recover our expenses, but we want this project to be self-sustainable. We want to create a dedicated appropriation, or we want to propose to create a dedicated appropriation fund just to make sure that we are monitoring the health and performance of this type of program, and that it's by itself. And also this will have a joint oversight from the legal department, finance department, and community development. So the alternatives for today, and I'm open to questions after this as well, is if you decide to accept the proposed framework, the component about the recruiting for the chief of police, that's an addition to the framework. So if you decide that that's not a good idea, but you want to continue the framework, that's part of what we're presenting tonight. So that's one option. And then the second option is if you want to suggest any revisions and you want to give us further direction, we're happy to take notes and develop the policy accordingly. And with that, if you have any comments or questions, I'm happy to take those.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Beatriz. So let me, take it out to those that we ask those that are joining us via Zoom. If there's any comments on item number 3 of our business items. So anyone that's joining us via Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, this is the time to do so. Okay, seeing none, then I will bring it back to the council then for comments and questions on this or any suggestions. Yeah, please, before I move on to the council, so I just want to clarify because the agenda item only has workforce housing rental policy framework. And it doesn't include the second item that you spoke about in terms of the police use of the police chief. So I just want to be clear, so you're asking us to review, to approve 2 different things, yet our agenda item only has a framework. So I just legally want to make sure that that's okay, because if members of the public wanted to come and comment, I know that's not what the title suggests.
I think it does fall into that because they are part of the workforce, and so we're asking for direction on whether or not a rental to, a temporary rental or as part of our workforce could be considered as, you know, for the chief of police for a very short period of time, so it does fit as kind of this rental policy framework.
I just think for clarity, Megan, it's, we're having, because you're asking us to do two things here, so I just think for me, just in terms of transparency, to make sure that the heading is, you know, correctly, so if a member of the public wants to come and give comment on it, that they know it's not just this, but we're actually also approving I know it falls under the workforce housing, but I just wanna make sure, because it didn't
Yeah.
seem a little
Is it-
misleading.
And maybe, you know, we can do a better job in the title, but if you click on the report, the discussion of the chief of police is integrated into the framework.
Yeah.
And included in the report, so we can, you know, maybe look a little bit more, about the titling. But really there's not an action per se, we're just really seeking direction.
But the policy, yeah,
So got it, so no action is being taken, we're just
No.
giving you our recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
and based on your recommendations, we will develop the policy and we will, start the implementation.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, then I'll start with Council Member Caldera and move my way to the left.
Alright.
The right. Councilmember Caldera.
Well, I'm glad we have something to offer the incoming people we're trying to attract. I believe, in my opinion, I think it's a really good idea to house temporary housing, and once they're sick, you know, they can go on and look elsewhere. I mean, I think it's great. All for it.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Councilmember Gonzalo Sanchez.
Could I go back to the tier next one, please? So for the tier slides, I see them listed, new emergency first responders, short-term relocation for chiefs, current first responders, emergency personnel. I remember a discussion before was that it was for mid-management only. Is that changed, or are we going to clarify that? Because I don't see it clarified here. And even with tier 3, it says such as engineers and modern wastewater operators. I know that that's our mid-level, but I don't know if we need to be clear, I guess.
I wouldn't I think we specified a, income range.
Yeah.
Which was, I believe it was 80 to 150 or
80 to
160.
160.
Yeah, so that would be the primary group. I think the only thing that's kind of unique here is that it just so happens as we're ready to kind of open it up, we have this, you know, opportunity that we wouldn't normally state, but because we are almost done with the hiring process of the chief of police and the candidates are from out of area, we thought, okay, maybe we could, for just that temporary period, before we kind of open it up, because it'll take us some time to kind of open it up. We could have them just stay there temporarily, and we could limit it to 3 months, we just put 3 to 6 months as a kind of a starting point, but once if you grant that and say, yes, okay, we wouldn't do that again.
Right.
Then that's just, but you're right, it would be for that 80 to 160, that group. So it could be folks that are actually, you know, not managers, it could be for any personnel, but we would prioritize first responders. Recruitment first, then retention, then recruitment of other hard to achieve people, then retention. And then everyone else, basically.
Right, because I do remember that being the first conversation was that, so I just wanted clarity on that or not. I don't really know. I think.
Yeah, but you were specific that you did not want director
Right,
or,
right.
you know, like the city manager, and we would honor that I know it's weird that we're asking for the chief of police, but because it's just this very timing in the fact that the people are out of area and it's hard to find even a unit to rent in Soledad, and it's good for them to kind of get to know the community and to have a landing spot. Speaking from my own experience of not being able to rent, I was coming from out of state. It was, my family had to move between hotel rooms with a lizard and a dog, it would have been nice if at the time I had a landing place to go, and so thinking about that, we thought, okay, timing might work for this, but only if council is comfortable with it.
Yeah, and I think the other thought that we had behind this is that it is a first responder, and some of the vacancies that we have are within the police department, so having 6 officers, six positions vacant with officers, not having the chief of police and this being part of the first responders, that's what we thought that maybe you will consider, but again, it's for council consideration, but our train of thought is we wouldn't offer this to a community and economic development director. It was more because they're within that first responders, so fire and PD.
Right, I want to just clarify where I was coming from with the question, it wasn't about like having any like feelings towards it going for the chief of police, mine was just because it didn't seem clear in the tiers for the other director roles, I wasn't really talking about that, but I appreciate that added context. I have other questions, but I guess I can turn to that part now. I think we're just like in that space, right, where like timing kind of happens, so it makes sense to me anyways to have that brought up. I think a 3-month leave should be plenty with maybe 1 month extra if needed, because sometimes things happen as well. I think 6 months is a little too long. So I think 3 with an additional maybe 1 month that can maybe come back to us would be something that I would recommend. But kind of jumping back to the lease itself, so I kind of want clarity as well. So I hear the 2-year term. Would that mean that the lease would be for 2 years, or would it be yearly but up to 2 years?
It will probably be for 2 years. It's slightly different because this is workforce housing, so it's kind of seen also as a benefit from your employer. So you can establish that term at the very beginning, so you can do the 2 years and then decide if you want to renew or not.
And then would it kind of be the same thing if they want to terminate early, they have to go through a process, or how would that look?
I think what we could do is we could do a 1-year lease, with a 2-year that renewable up to 2 years. And then we would probably be, because if someone finds housing and wants to leave, that's great for us, because then it becomes open, so we wouldn't be like, those terrible landlords that lock you in.
Exactly.
If you wanna leave, you have to pay a big penalty, so we would probably just, require 30-day notice to cancel the lease.
Okay, and then for the tier 4 essential public employees, would these be employees that specifically work in the city of Soledad, or people that live in Soledad that might work in neighboring cities?
No, I think people that live in Soledad and that work in the public sector.
So I see teachers and I know that they're getting their own housing, but I see why it's there, because they are essential employees. But, okay.
Yeah, and I think also this tiers, like right now, I don't think we're gonna get past tier 2
Probably not.
within the current situation, right? But we're also thinking long term, like if in 10 years from now, the housing situation changes, that there's at least this guide for people to go over the priority levels.
And then, as for like the rent that is being paid, where is that funding going? Is it going back to like a general fund, or is it going elsewhere? Cause we purchased the whole thing, right? So is it just going back into the same pot, or?
Yeah, we took it out of our savings, piggy bank, our reserve, so we would just put it, I think we would put it back. But that would be operating reserve that would, continue to give us solvency, I guess. So that's what we would, that was, I think, what we mentioned in the before.
Yeah.
But you guys could direct it any way you wanted, if you wanted it to go into segregated for future housing work, you know, that would be fine too. But as it stands, we took it out of that, pot of money, so we would just put it back to that. pot.
And because it's a new program, we're suggesting that we create its own appropriation fund so that we can really monitor our expenses on this program. And yes, we have to repay the money because we use the money from the sales of the teacher housing project. So we use that money and we use our capital improvement gains from the money market. So that's what we used. But yes, we have to repay ourselves. But we also need to see how the program is performing. That's why we're suggesting that it has its own appropriation fund so that we can see how much money we're really getting in. And then we're gonna have to, we also have some expenses like the HOA, like there are other expenses that are coming with the property. So we wanna see how much we're also spending.
So then it would first go into that fund to see if it's needed, because something breaks, for example, and it would be used from that pot, and then it would go into the reserve?
Yeah, I probably should, clarify, and I'm gonna work, you know, and I think Mike Howard's on the line. It is still the same fund,
Mike is around.
but we would create its own project accounting. So that we would make sure that, again, is what Beatrice is saying is that we would, you know, monitor, like if we had expenditures that we had to come out of it, it would be segregated, so we would count it. But it would still be the general fund. We would still operate within that fund, I believe, that if he wanted
Yeah,
to.
Mike, I know you're, I think you're on the line, if you would like to unmute, so if you wanna give a little bit more context in terms of the budget piece.
He's on custody, so we have to. Okay.
I think,
Or Mike.
I think it might be Mike Howard, because he mentioned, here, there he is.
Okay, it just took a while to unmute there. Good evening. So, yes, the purchase of the property is technically a general fund asset, and we will account for the activities of the condo somewhat separate. But at the end of the day, in the presentation of any financial statements, it will still be part of the general fund.
Great.
No, I got it right, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Okay,
Great, I
any
think,
additional
yeah, no, I
questions?
think that's it.
Okay, thank you for that, so. Councilmember Caldera? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being this way. Councilwoman Rivera, thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and then coming back and just the excitement of, you know, actually just kind of like, opening the door for the first responders and the police chiefs that's coming in. My questions were the same questions as, Councilmember Gonzalez Sanchez, but thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Beatriz. So, thank you for the framework. I do have some additions, and I think I'm gonna recommend if it's possible, because if we're gonna approve the framework, I know that we said there's an exclusion, right, for city managers and for our directors. So I know we're approving a framework and it's not gonna happen all the time, so I would recommend that we take these two things separate and not add it into our tier one. Because then it just becomes, I think, for me, a little confusing in terms of what I want to approve. And I would approve that. I mean, I think that seems fair and logical to be able to do it, but I think as we have a discussion, and I just want to reiterate, you know, Councilmember Gonzalo Sanchez, you know, comment in terms of, we want to make sure we tell our public that what we did with public funds were for the purpose of retention and employees, but it does exclude city managers and it does exclude directors. So I want that to be really clear and not be convoluted. And I think if we put it as part of the framework, we're adopting that, or we're recommending that to be adopted for future. So not having it as part of that, I think just taking those two things separately for me, I think would be more clear. So it doesn't stay on there.
So, I'm sorry, through the chair, just so I'm clear. Are we saying that just this one time we would consider, because of the timing, consider the chief of police position
Yes.
for 3 months with 1 month possible extension if circumstance is warranted. But otherwise, we would exclude the
Yes.
future chiefs of police and fire and all directors and city manager. And that would be a specific in the rental policy that it excludes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct, because I believe that what was a discussion, and I want to make sure we stay true to what the intent and the purpose was for this, and I know the city obviously in the past did have a home that they owned, and it was for the city manager, and there was a lot of different conversations about that, so I think it's coming before us now that we really make sure that we're clear that this is a one-time and it's not included in the framework. And so that's,
So got that.
yeah, and then the other one on the rental section, I don't know if we can add here yet, these rental section with the rental revenues, just to be really clear on how those are gonna be utilized. I know we talked about that they're going back into the general fund, but I think having a framework, it's clear for us and clear, you know, in terms of, anyone that comes after or, you know, any changes in administration, that it's clear what the intent was in terms of the general fund. I know in the past we've utilized general fund, that it comes back to the city if there's, I mean, it comes back to the council. If there is any intent to use that specifically, that we discuss that. But if it's, obviously we have to repay ourselves, just kind of clarity in terms of the rental revenues, I know there's a dedicated appropriation fund, but if we can just clarify that, I think that would be good for the framework. And then just my other addition to that would be the management company.
Sorry, through the chair. It may be more important to, I'm not sure, because this framework is really a rental policy about the individual, not so much ourselves. There might be a better way of instituting the direction from a financial perspective.
Okay, so let's look at how we can do that, because I just want to make sure that there's a memorialization of how this funding, the rental revenues are going to be utilized. And I know we talked about recouping or going back into that fund that we pulled out to put that back. But also what happens in the event that there's surplus funds, right? What's the other designation and how we're gonna handle that? So if we could do that, and then, so, yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. And then the other is to add the management. I don't know if we can, maybe that's in another, but I thought the management.
Through the chair, we can institute that this is for folks that make 80 to 160% of the area median income. Specifically so that, or we could even go less, but no more than 160.
Point of
AMI.
information, so was it 80 to 160%? Because it sounded like we were saying 80 to 160,000, so now I'm confused.
No, I
No.
80 to 160% of the area median income.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it will be the household, not just the employees. So if it's a couple and they have joint income, so it will be the household income.
Got it.
And the reason behind that too, because there's already, and we're following some of the counties, already established rental, rates, right? So we don't have to recreate anything, we're following that model for that category of AMI.
Mhm.
And that's the workforce housing definition.
80 to 160, so, yeah, so we can clarify that's per regulation, right? We're not making it up.
Yeah, and
It's per.
that's how we're actually able to have a term, because through fair housing, if it's workforce housing, you can have a term, like a 2-year term, a 3-year term. That's how we're able to make sure that we're still complying with fair housing,
Okay,
by staying within the workforce housing, area median income.
thank you for clarifying that, because that was one of my questions in terms of workforce, the fair housing.
Mhm.
Why are we only, it's consistent with that, so thank you. But I think for me, making just the addition of, and maybe this is in a different portion, maybe not necessarily the framework, but I think just clarity on the management company. Like, is the city gonna manage this? The city's gonna contract out the management company, you know, having those details, because I think that's gonna affect the, I mean, that's gonna be all part of what we're going to spend under the rental revenues, right, when they come back?
Yeah, because it's only one unit, the city would manage it.
So we would not.
Yeah,
Okay, so we would-
unless, you know, if we have a lot more, then at some point, yes, we would, yeah.
So can that be added to the language of the framework? The city will manage this internally. Okay, perfect. And that's it. I think my only other, I think my only other comment on this one would be, in terms of the contract, if we're gonna manage it, and I know Mike is still on the line, but anything that we need to worry about in terms of risks or liabilities to the city?
So we did have to provide insurance and we got that taken care of the same day that we finalized the sales of the property. As if we, depending on how we do with the furnishing, that will also be an added expense that we may need to insure. But we're treating it as another city facility, that we're adding within our existing insurance policies. I don't know if Mike has something more comprehensive to add, but that's my understanding.
Okay, if he doesn't speak, then that means he doesn't have anything else to add, so we're gonna add.
And I was gonna say, we're in good hands with, Mike Howard also, because we're not, King City also actually has a rental, housing unit, so he has some experience with it and can help guide us through this.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you. I mean, I think for me, it's always looking at the risk and liability. Obviously, it's good, but we're gonna have the framework. I wanna make sure that we have what we need in there. So I provided you with my additions. You heard the comments already on that, so I think that's all we need for now.
Yeah, and just, to replicate, and if I missed anything, you know, what I heard is generally the framework was okay, but you wanted an explicit exclusion for, upper management, city manager, director. However, you would, allow for this, since the time of this.
Cleaning water.
Since the timing of this recruitment is, alliance, you would consider a 3-month, short-term stay for an incoming chief with a possible 1-month extension depending on the circumstances. You would like some way to memorialize the repayment of the general fund, and we agreed that we would, keep, project accounting. We need to specify within the tier that this would be 80 to 160% of AMI, so that's the group that we're covering. I think that was it. Did I get everything? Direction wise?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we've already gone through our comments, so thank you. Thank you, Beatriz. Thank you for putting this together so rapidly. So we'll move on and thank you. We'll move on to our next item of business, and it's our final business item, resolution number 6224. A resolution of the City Council of Soledad authorizing the city manager to defer the development and pay fees for Eden Housing, affordable housing project on parts of Eden Secure Payment by a deed of trust and a promissory note. And I will turn this over to Beatriz.
Back to me, thank you. And so this is, I'm sorry, I'm choking on my saliva.
Do you need a minute?
You need a minute?
Maybe I'll take a
5-minute break.
Yeah, thank you. This is the reason why I stopped going to the movies, because I just like to choke on my own saliva.
Early, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for the patience, and we'll turn it over now to Beatriz, and she can, walk us through item number 4.
Thank you, everyone. I apologize for that. So this is our last item, which is the Eden Housing, Mirabel Parcel E Affordable Housing Project. And what we are looking for tonight is, for the city council to approve resolution number 6224 to authorize the city manager to do 2 things. One is to defer, $610,640 in development impact fees to Eden Housing. And we will secure the deferred of this payment, through a deed of trust and a promissory note, which is part of the agenda packet for this item. So this project, you're probably already familiar with this one, but this is, a partnership between, AGA Development and Eden Housing. So Eden Housing is producing the affordable units that are required to the inclusionary housing for the Parcel E development, which is owned by, the AGA Development. The location, right now, because it's in the early stages, we are referring to it as Parcel E. We don't have any, a more specific address. But the portion that Eden Housing is developing is a total of 40 units. Those 40 units, one of them is gonna be for the manager, so one unit is not gonna be debt restricted. But the other 39 will be for low and very low income residents. So the total, impact fees that they need to pay is a little over $1 million. But as part of their affordable housing agreement, the city agreed to give a $10,000 credit for every affordable unit. So because they're doing a total of 39 affordable units, we will grant a credit of $390,000. That's why the remaining balance that they are asking to be deferred is $610,640. And that repayment will be at the end of the affordability period, which for this project is 55 years. And again, it will be secured to the deed of trust and promissory note. And even though it sounds like 55 years is very long from now, it is, but affordable housing development, they need to be creative on how they secure additional funding. And one of the ways that we can really support affordable housing developers is through fee deferrals. It's a very standard practice for cities to do that, because when the affordable housing developer is looking for funding, one of the programs that they apply to is the low income housing tax credits. It's a very competitive process, and it does require a local match. So if we don't want to go into our general fund, a way that we can do it is deferring this fees, and that will comply with the local match for them to be competitive in the application process. So, we took this item to the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee back on March 27, and this committee supported the fee deferral and supported this item to coming back before council. And we prepared with this item also the deed of trust, which is Exhibit 8, and the promissory note, which is Exhibit B. Both documents have been reviewed by our legal team. In financial considerations, even though we're not gonna have an immediate cash flow from this type of funding, we think that having affordable housing is a higher priority for our city council, and really the benefit of producing these affordable housing units outweighs not having that cash flow right now. And it also encourages affordable housing developers to work with the city of Soledad. And this is one of the strategic uses that the city can have with one of these practices. With that, I'll leave it open if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Beatriz. So let me take it out to the public first, if there are any questions or comments, and then I'll move it to council. So any members of the public that are joining us via Zoom have any comments on business item 4? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I will bring it back to council, and I'll start, if there's any comments or questions at this time, it's appropriate to ask her to comment, and I'll start with Councilwoman Mendoza.
Yeah, please, thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the slides. I appreciate all the hard work, and then you also working together with the development to bring this together. I don't have any questions because those were already answered on the previous. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Gonzalez Sanchez.
Just like one question for clarification, so if we do move forward to defer the fees, the grand total is going to do until the end of the 55 days. And like, they have to pay it because of the deed stuff, right?
Mhm.
Cause I'm like thinking like, wow, where does somebody get that amount of money?
Yeah, the deed of trust will pretty much have like a hold on it, so they wouldn't be able to do anything with that property until the city okays, until the city gets their funding. So anything that any transaction that they want to do with that property, they wouldn't be able to do without going through the city first.
I mean, two things can happen when you have an affordable housing development. One is that they could recapitalize the asset and put rehab money into it and extend the affordability term. Or they could convert it to private property or private, for market rentals. Either way, that's when at that point they would pay us. It's like a lien on the property.
Councilmember Caldera.
Actually, for me, my question was answered. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Beatriz, and, yeah, I don't have any comments on it, I don't have any questions on it, so just brought me back memories of my housing days, so my only comment that I wanna say is just for our public too, that I'm glad to see this moving forward, I'm glad to see that Eden Housing is involved to be able to produce the affordable housing units, building, it's actually pretty awful that building affordable housing takes so much strategy and so much complex financing to make it work. But nonetheless, I know it's really important to be able to do, and part of this development should have been done many years ago. And so I just want to point that out. I'm glad it's moving forward now, and I'm glad we have the relationship with Eden Housing, and hopefully this comes to fruition to be able to provide the housing that's needed for our community. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 6224. Okay, so I have a first by Councilwoman Benuelos and a second by Councilman Gonzalez Sanchez. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so with that, council will move into our next item of business, which are council reports. So I will start with the mayor's reports and acknowledgements. And so we can have a timer. Okay, so on April 6th, I met with Megan as part of our standing meeting on the floor. The city manager, Mayor Pro Tem, and myself met with State Senator John Baird to discuss different critical city issues regarding capacity and capital improvements to the water reclamation facility, the Salinas River levee to address future damage and need for the state and federal funds, the Hacienda Jimenez Labor Camp and State Water Board wanting the city to connect to the housing project to the city's wastewater and water systems. So we continue to work with the county and have concerns about bailing out a bad landlord with bad housing conditions on this site. So the city wants the housing issues to be addressed and the landlord held accountable. We also talked about our recycled water conveyance project and the need to, that there was a shortfall of 1.5 billion in the bids that came in, and the possibility of district earmark funding. Senator there did say that there was a possibility of Prop 4 bond money to be able to use for this project. So we're excited about that. Hopefully that goes through. On the 4th, I also met with Lisa Levici, who's the Director of the Government Affairs for Charter Communications. We discussed her grants project for digital literacy class for parents and youth, and a potential partnership with Those Fishes and Computers, which we had, I believe back in 2017. King City recently received a grant for $143,000 to expand bilingual digital literacy Actually, it's throughout Monterey County, so that's, their ribbon cutting is gonna happen on the 8th, so we're excited that we possibly can submit for grant funding through charter, and then we also discussed opportunities for community center funding, that's part of something that they're able to do. And then on the 5th, I attended the city strategic planning and retreat and the first SPDC Business Expo at Cesar Chavez Park during the lunch break, so thank you to all the team that put that together. On the 9th, I was not able to attend Speaker Rivas Legislative Day as I was out of town, and so I know Councilwoman Munoz and Mayor Pro Tem attended, so excited to hear updates on that. On the 11th, I met with Councilwoman Munoz and Megan just to clarify existing policies related to certificates and resolutions. On the 11th, I attended the morning section of the life skills training at the Soledad Community Center, so which was amazing. Over 100 students participated, and so thank you to our recreation team, our youth council, Monterey County Workforce Development, and Soledad High School, and everybody else that participated. On the 12th, I was part of a Future Leaders of Change honoring women event, so they honored 10 different women, and I was part of them. These are the leaders, the future leaders of change, the young people from Greenfield. So they actually did an amazing job. And just want to say thank you to them for all of the work that they're doing to address environmental justice issues. And then today, Megan and I met with Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren to provide her an overview of our current federal funds and potential impacts on our federal applications. Thank you. And we just discussed critical initiatives. So thank you. And so with that, I will then turn it over to Councilmember Caldera.
Just a couple of functions I attended, on the 5th, I attended the Small Business Expo. That same day we had this strategic planning. Strategic planning here. And,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Gonzalo Sanchez.
Yeah, on April 3rd, I attended Main Street Middle School Career Day, which was really exciting to get to go back to the middle school that I went to. And it was also, it's funny because last month, right, I attended Frank Ledesma's Reading Day. I forget what it's called.
Reading Across America.
Yeah.
Yes, Reading Across America on the 1-year anniversary of when I won my election. And so April 3rd, when I was at Main Street, was the 1-year anniversary of my swearing in. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then April 5th, I also attended our strategic plan meeting with staff as well as attend our business expo. On April 9th, I was not able to attend Speaker Rivas's legislative day that he had because I filed to work, but also I was going to attend the AMBAG meeting and ended up being canceled. So there's that. On April 11th, I met with Megan regarding the chief of police recruitment as well as a briefing for today. And then today I also met with Megan and Constance just in preparation of our leadership summit, legislative day as well for next week that I will be attending on behalf of the city. And I just wanted to invite folks to a event being thrown by the Salinas Valley Pride Celebrations board on April 27th at Aragon Pizza from 5 to 7:30 for Lesbian Day of Visibility. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Abanos?
Yes, April 3rd, I did attend the Monterey County Veterans Parade Committee. We are off to a great start. We're going to be doing our throwdown in August, and of course, everyone else is invited for the parade, Veterans Day. April 5th, I also attended the strategic planning session retreat with Mayor Velasquez and Councilmember Sanchez and Cabrera. Along with that, during our lunchtime, we did visit the Business Expo at Cesar Chavez, and this was more to many of the expos, and it was a great engagement with not only our businesses, but also everyone else that was in attendance. On April 9th, I did attend the state legislative day as Speaker of the House, Robert Rivas, along with Councilmember Caldera. It was a great experience because this is their first time doing it. And thank you and us for Dominic and his team for putting it together. And of course, networking with, and getting to meet our assembly members and senators, you know, and this platform, it was a great experience. And then also just talking to everyone else and, you know, bringing up, state issues, not local government. That's April 10th, I had a phone, Zoom meeting, with Megan and Mayor Ana Velasquez regarding, the policies and procedures, infrastructure proclamations. April 10th, I did have a phone conversation with, Megan regarding our police chief, survey. I also attended, in the afternoon, April 12th, for the life skills session for our young adults at the Summit Community Center. And I just wanted to say props to everyone that was involved. It was a great experience and, you know, just interacting with some of the students, you know, their key points, what did they really enjoy and what was the most memorable. They had culinary, they had resume building, they had basic auto care, finance workshops. And it was just great. And then also the tables that were also there. Let's see, also I did a phone briefing with Megan this afternoon regarding our agenda. And also I'd like to invite everyone this Saturday, Cesar Chavez Park on Front Street from 11 to 1 for the Easter egg hunt that partnering up with Solid Rec District, the Solid Community, Solid Parks and Recs, and also the Solid Lions and Lions Club. Oh, and then also on Friday, I'll also be attending the unveiling of the mural for the Braceros at Chumar.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to our next item of business, which is council, city manager report. So I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you. So apologies that I haven't sent out my written report. It's been kind of a crazy time, but, I am, working, I'm working with Henry and other folks in the, departments to kind of transition some of Jesus's responsibilities. His last day was, April 11th. I'll be taking on the committee work. Jessica is gonna help with the youth council, and Henry's gonna continue to, you know, post things on social media, work on our website, and push out more media advisories. We are going to figure out how, you know, the civics academy, that we're gonna continue to support that even in Jesus's absence. I know that that was a comment. I did wanna let council know that I do have a couple of dates that I'm gonna be not in the office. I have a family medical leave need, and I'm gonna have to be out on April 28th to May 6th. I'm traveling back east, so there'll be a 3-hour difference, but I will be taking calls and, you know, checking my emails. I'll let you know, I have to talk a little internally about who can be acting on my behalf, so I'll let you know that in an email by Friday. My daughter is graduating from USC, so I will be out May 15th and 16th for her graduation. I wanted to let you know that Jesus Yanes and I met with Alex Terwilliger from Kansas University, and he has been sifting through all of the content that we developed on April 5th, and it's a lot of content. He was really pleased to see what is there. So what they're gonna be doing is they're gonna be holding that all together. We're gonna work with each of the departments to flesh out the tasks underneath the goals and objectives that you guys help develop, and come up with a suggested time frame. And then he's gonna put that out to all of you as a survey for you to respond and say, hey, this is a priority, or hey, this is not, or hey, where is this? You will be getting that. He did mention that there was a lot of red smiley face, a lot of urgent matters, so we'll have to maybe, think back, but, great content. Thank you for that. Darlene and I met with the Crusaders about hot summer days. I think we have a plan to move forward that would clarify responsibilities and make sure that the city can support. In terms of the police chief, I'm happy to report the technical panel completed the process. They are recommending 3 final candidates for being an interview. And they all had the same top 3, and ironically, they were the 3 that I liked from the written. I haven't met them reading their application, so things seem to kind of be aligning there. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Megan, for that. So Megan, I know there was a community survey on the chief. Yes, to the council, please.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to our next item. Or do we have any questions? Any questions for Megan?
Oh, I have a question. Something about Crusaders, I didn't hear that.
Oh, Darlene and I met with the Crusaders to talk about the hot summer days program, and I think we have a path forward. Oh, one thing I should mention is it would be pushed back. It would be July 26th instead of on the heels of 4th of July, which is way better for us because that's always been a challenge with everything going on on the 4th of July. It just is really tiring for police and fire to then have to roll into hot summer days the next week.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to our next item and it's future agenda items, and I'll start with Councilmember Caldera. Okay. Councilmember Gonzalez Sanchez.
No.
Okay, Councilwoman Morales. Megan, I don't have future agenda items, but just 2 comments. One is the porta potties are back. I know
That was
we-
mine too, but I didn't know that's not. I didn't know. It's actually-
Yeah, and just because it's on the, just, like, I had it as a future agenda item to address, but I just want to make sure that we know that they're back.
I add also to that, they've multiplied, so now it's 7.
Yeah.
Almost 10, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's several, so if we can come back, Megan, and I know that was something that we've addressed in the past and how we can address it moving forward. And then
The location, is it?
that's the same.
It's entering the
same.
pipelines, yeah,
The
it's
same.
entering Soledad, north,
Yeah.
south, sorry,
So it's
south.
technically
The
right
same.
outside their jurisdiction.
Yeah, but it's been in the
Yes.
same location where it's been in the past, so they haven't changed, they're there. The
Um,
same area.
Might I make a suggestion? Because I think a lot of times we do the best we can, but because they're outside of our jurisdiction, it's a little bit hard. Maybe we can invite environmental health from Monterey County. It should be regulating both vendors and the porta potties to give a report on what they're doing and.
I think that's a great idea,
Okay, great.
so I think if we can bring them here, because it's been an ongoing issue for several years already, so if we can have a remedy to that moving forward would be great. Okay, and then I know that I had, the town hall, I wanted, to discuss before, I don't know, I had it on my agenda for future, traffic with all of the traffic impacts, but I know that there's already something scheduled on May 5th with Tansy, and if we can just ensure that there's sufficient outreach for that meeting to happen, because we've all heard a lot of the traffic concerns.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure.
Okay, so that's it, and if there's no future agenda items, then we have this meeting.